Hello everyone and welcome. Sorry again for the slight echo, but my uncle is still stubborn, so I can't shoot outside. Nevertheless, it gives me a little time, especially to watch Atlético Real last night. And while watching the match, I increasingly understand why I train so much in basketball during the week in the evenings. Because it really takes a certain courage to endure such performances. So already, especially bravo to the Real fans, because every match I could watch this year, honestly, it wasn't necessarily the agent. Now you might say, but it's okay, it wins. Which is true. The effect of the people was favorable, especially in that penalty shootout. We won't go back over that. But as for the rest, God knows that this team, which was exciting for years, even when they were dominated, there was something, there was a soul, it would wake up. Then you wanted to see Modric, you wanted to see Kroos, you wanted to see Benzema, the exploits of Vinicius, Carvajal, one of the best fullbacks. There was something, Rodrygo too, who, since his arrival, also knows a lot. There is something, the runs of Valverde and all that. But God knows that right now I don't find them exciting, and in fact it's such a well-organized team. Organized in the past with a hierarchy of whatever you want, which today is almost caricature-like because it is trapped by its statuses. We made several videos on Real this season to explain all this, the little internal struggles and the imbalance that can exist in the locker room. And yesterday it was obvious with Carvajal, so I repeat, he is obviously one of the best fullbacks of recent years. When he is not there, indeed, it shows, especially when Vasquez came in. It was quite abyssal too. But you saw the attitude, meaning that as a leader, even when he is not there, he will give the talk, etc. I think it was before extra time, at the halftime of extra time, it was not necessary to small, I have a little doubt, but obviously in a team that is lacking a leader, a guy like Kroos not being there, it's not so much the voice, it's the example on the field, the attitude, the intensity you can bring, the concentration. Modric, who once again, well, he gives everything for 60 minutes. We can't fault Modric's commitment, even if sometimes I felt a bit sorry for him because he was there, always asking for the ball, looking. Because up front, it wasn't really moving for him to make the shifts, and with his polished play, so obviously you have Alaba, who is also a leader, but given all the injuries he's had, does he have the sporting legitimacy today? Because it's very hard to return to his level. Surely good luck to him, obviously, to get back to all that. So, I mean, there's no more Benzema either, and at the same time, nature abhors a vacuum, and there are the growing egos of each person, and that's why today we are completely trapped by things. The arrival of Mbappé has inevitably disrupted quite a few things, and you get the feeling that it's a bit like FC My Ego. Well, it's true, when you've won so much, it's still tough, and the season is far from disastrous either, even though, as we had repeated, Rennes has never lost so many matches. That is to say, remember, in Bilbao, we have won recently, Betis again yesterday, huh? It's a defeat in regular time, in any case, 1-0. There were those blows against Barca, defeats against Milan, Liverpool. Well, Real is not used to it, and especially not by such scores and such an impression. It's quite simple. Yesterday, 120 minutes. You have almost no chance. So yes, you earned that penalty, which is actually Mbappe's best action of the match. 10-0 at the Atlético, Real takes advantage immediately. But behind, not only was the game predictable, it turned into a caricature. And the same goes for the substitutions. Meaning Mbappé never comes off, and when he does, remember, there's a slight issue. Vinicius, he almost never comes off, but when he does, he's taken off 5 minutes before the end of the extra time session. Maybe precisely so he won't take the penalty, which he has completely missed. Besides, every time you get the impression that when Real has a penalty, it's a problem, you never really know who's going to take it and all, even if, for once, very nice study by Bellingham, who immediately reconciles Vinicius. You have Bellingham, so similarly in the first half, at some point, he makes I don't know how many runs, he leaves a man at the 100 in midfield, for example, in the area. So yes, it's good, especially since Mbappé was coming back a lot. Maybe it was instructions, even though I still find it hard to see Ranciotti telling Mbappé to play like Benzema, but well, why not? So it's true that Bellingham fights, you can't blame him, there are those who will say yes, he yells, etc. At every level, you have guys who sometimes shout, etc. There's nothing dramatic about that. However, the problem is that it's disorganized, and sometimes the movements he makes make you wonder if it's for the team's benefit or mainly because he wants to score a goal. It's like Trent Arnold at Liverpool, who whenever he can shoot from 35 meters, he does it. I'm not saying he has a bad foot, but at some point, collective interest comes before individual interests. And then you have Rodrygo, who has shown all his emotional states this year, his melancholy, and who is always sacrificed. He will say first, who yesterday, well, some will say he's hiding. He is not playing in his position either, that's true. He did have a few decent sequences. The problem is that sometimes the ball wasn't passed back to him well, especially 1 or 2 times with Mbappé at one point. Well, the pass wasn't great. In any case, he came off. When he came off, it was dramatic. Brahim tried to do what he could. But oh my God, since it's stereotypical, and it seems like it's always the same, so tomorrow it's Rodrygo who will come out first. And the other 3, well, you're not sure. You can't really take them out. So you've practically ruined all your offensive substitutions. The only one is Brahim for Rodrygo. So what are you going to do next? You change Valverde, put him back in midfield. So you put Vasquez at right back, and you sometimes make the left back change, which we have to talk about because you'll have to explain to me if, once again, it's about the status for Mendy to be a starter. But that's not possible. I won't talk about the sleep. I won't even talk about the fact that he hardly helped Vinicius even once in attack. As Vinicius, like Coralie Sale from the club des 5 7, in his analysis with Elton Ma, which is very good, Vinicius against Atlético, it doesn't work. He scored only 1 goal in 17 or 18 matches. Against Valencia, it's the same. Maybe the emotional overload, who knows? In any case, Atlético prepares very well against him. They line up 1, 2, 3, and him is excessive, because he doesn't play with Kylian Mbappé. Well then, maybe on Instagram, that's a play. Hermano is the fuego, it's I don't know what. Because all of them, when you see them, you have the impression that they are all the best friends in the world, it's the 7th cavalry. So we need to stop being made to believe it. Oh yes, Hermano, te quiero whatever and all. No, stop it. Vinicius knows very well that the Mbappés are pushing for him to leave this summer, and Vinicius is not happy because there's Neymar showing his head to him, saying Mbappé is this, Mbappé is that. Do you sincerely believe it's going to work? Because it's me, because I want penalties. They're all turning like this. Bellingham, he wants to score, he wants his Ballon d'Or. Vinicius, he wants his Ballon d'Or. Mbappé, he wants his Ballon d'Or. The problem is that you have no one to put a stop to it, because the president said, okay, the president has a special relationship with certain players and all, and you have the coach, he's not fully immersed in the rules. So it leads to what we saw yesterday. The guys, you can clearly see they don't want to play with each other except on Instagram and Twitter. Oh, the man, the thing and all. I even wonder if they have a bonus for bringing me along for this ridiculous show. So as I was saying, Vinicius almost never plays with Kylian Mbappé. It was obvious yesterday. I'm curious to see the number of interactions they had. And since Mendy doesn't push forward, are those instructions or not? Well, I get carried away. So Rodrygo on the other side was a bit of a plus because Valverde sometimes helped him, etc. But already on the left side, we fell into a caricature because Vinicius, as soon as there's a match, that's where emotionally he might have Partly, your faith in handling it. He wants to make the difference on his own. And this year, it's been a while since he was able to pull it off. Let's say achieve the feats. Because Real has often relied on individual exploits. They might tell me collectively, you're not so... But you see the last match against Atlético, right? Rodrygo's exploit, Brahim's exploit. Match, I want to say, typical of Real. And yesterday, well, actually, you don't have that anymore. Because Vinicius, well, we know his mind isn't really there. There's Saudi Arabia. There's all his friends saying, Hermano, Hermano, because they are all going to get a ticket in Arabia. So they all want him to go. So there we are, individual disappointment. Bellingham is in his corner, Rodrygo who would like to play elsewhere and who, well, sometimes puts together some moves, but who is always the first one sacrificed. So obviously not happy. Manchester City, especially with Guardiola, who still likes him just as much. So actually it feels like you have four players. We tried it, probably it does not work. And the most obvious is without the ball. Not only are they static at the moment, how are guys so fast? Take so little depth. I'm not talking about yesterday, because yesterday you have a block, it's very complicated. And how do guys who are so fast and so athletically strong press so little and so poorly together? At some point, it's the staff too. I have questions. Because you have Bellingham, you see he wants to press Vinicius too. Often, in the first 5 seconds, he does it. But in the first half, look at the no man's stand afterward. Vinicius, he presses, 5 seconds later, it's over. No man's stand, and poor Mendy. He was nearly being attacked by 2 on counter-attacks. Bellingham, often, if you watch, he was going to help, which creates another problem in the midfield, as it left Tchouaméni and Modric outnumbered. All this because up front, well, no, it's... The pressing is simply disorganized and poorly done. When Black received the few balls, did you see Kylian Mbappé or Vinicius or Rodrygo? No, they run, the guys, but at some point, but you sprint, it's messy. Sometimes Bellingham goes too much, which will create, so actually it's not coordinated among them. It's clear, concise and precise. The coach doesn't react because certain players have been given statuses and they also want to renegotiate new contracts, this and that. But actually, as long as you don't put your foot down, I mean, Real, it's the first time they've heard fakes this year. It's no surprise. So yeah, it's fine. You might tell me maybe they'll win it, you never know. Maybe they'll even win everything, you don't know. But overall, you're not putting all the odds in your favor to get to the end. And the worst part of this story is that it seems to affect other players on the team, who previously said almost nothing. We can think of Valverde, we saw his wife's posts at the time, yes, but he doesn't play in his position, etc. It's not going well. You don't normally have this in Madrid. You don't have this kind of mood, especially from such a player who is destined to almost be the captain later on, who is today a veteran, a key player, and who yesterday played a great match, first as a fullback, then as a midfielder, another great match, always had a great attitude. There is this action, but it's so symbolic, where he goes to do... One of the rare runs there was, let's say, without the ball, a bit of depth, etc. When I say depth, you're not behind the defense, but it's between the midfield and the defense. He's going to create something, and we have this pass. He makes this cross to the 5-meter mark. And not one has the idea to get to the far post. So there, you see, he gets a bit upset, which is normal, but he gave it his all. Camavinga made a good entrance yesterday. Asensio, who behind brings you something, not only grit, but you feel he plays for others. And at some point, why has Real been working so well these past few years? Because all the guys played for each other, and they knew Vinicius could pull off exploits, but you had to see how he tore himself up physically for the team, the pressing, this, that. He also had the responsibility to make the difference. What he had managed to do, Bellingham and the others. But here, the hierarchy, you feel that everyone wants to be the caliph instead of the caliph. And that's the best way to flop at the end of the season, especially when you make no decision, because it's wishful thinking. Yes, but it's okay. Is it really okay? Do the real fans really look at themselves or say, we understand what's happening? I'm not even talking about the substitutes, where you see that some have completely sunk like Arda Güler. So we'll see for Hendrik. Brahim, who sometimes manages to bring quite a bit, but actually it's so stereotypical that you mostly feel like it pleases no one. Nevertheless, there is no panic at home either. We know that this summer there will be a big upheaval coming. The coach, it really seems like a Spaniard from Germany, huh? And then the players, to see if Vinicius leaves for Saudi Arabia this summer or not. So surely, you can't say it's a lesson in transition because, well, you say we brought Mbappé. You're real is hard to say that, and they can still win everything, of course. Nevertheless, there are still some very worrying signs, and that's why at some point we need to stop with the self-delusion. But hey, no worries. At worst, we'll put a fire emoji and say, hermano todo bien. Surely, on social media, we can make anyone believe anything, but at some point, the reality on the field comes back. On that note, keep the faith.